What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my podcast, the Let's Argue podcast. My name is Fitz. We are going to get into it. I'll give it a couple more seconds. I know a lot of people are probably going to watch this on replay. It's a Friday, so, and I'm a smaller channel, less well known. So I don't really expect many people to come in here and spend their Friday with me. But I do appreciate those of you that do. So as you make your way in, make sure you hit that like button, comment. This is going to be a great discussion. The more people that engage, the more people we can really have a great conversation with, and maybe try to get down to the bottom of some of the things that are going on in this crazy world. Crazy world. All right. Shout out to everyone that has already joined, already watching. Also, shout out to everyone that watched my original video of this. I was taking a walk in the park, getting my exercise, and I had just thrown my camera on and started recording, kind of speaking from the heart. Nothing formal, really raw emotions, raw thoughts after watching the interview. I went to the gym, worked out, was watching part of it while I was working out. Then I went to the park right around the corner, was taking a walk, and was like, let me just record and say what's on my mind. So thank you for everyone that watched that video. We're almost at about 10,000 views on that video. The most views this channel has gotten since I started it about a month ago. So thank you for that. And hopefully that video keeps doing numbers so that this content gets pushed out to more and more people. My goal with this channel, for those of you who are wondering, is just to spark discussion. Me personally, as far as where I fall politically, I'm an independent. As far as where I fall ideologically, I tend to be more on the side of you are responsible for your own success. That's where I fall on the side of ideology, right? You're responsible for your success. So whether that means I'm a Democrat, a Republican, I don't really get into all that. I'm more so focused on results in life. If a Democrat perspective or idea is going to get me a certain result or get a certain result for the community or group of people I'm interested in helping, that's what I'll go with. If it's a Republican or a conservative policy, that's what I go with. I don't tend to follow groups. I tend to follow results and what gets the job done. And typically what gets the job done is not the same every single time. Sometimes you need to give people a little break. Sometimes you need to be hard on them. Sometimes you need a mixture of both, and there's a balance. There's not a one size fits all. So as far as politically, like I said, I'm an independent. I know a lot of people after watching this video and going through my other videos on my channel, they may assume I'm a Republican or assume that I'm conservative. I don't use those type of labels. If what I say happens to align with what they're saying, it just is a coincidence. I didn't study any book that told me what ideas to say. These are just things that I think, the way I process the world. And you know what? While we're waiting, I'll give you a little backstory as to why I am that way, right? Me, Fitz, believe it or not, I grew up in poverty. Right? I grew up in poverty, and I didn't grow up in poverty in the sense of I was getting in shootouts all the time. No, I wasn't walking out the house and people shooting guns at me and all this other stuff. I grew up in poverty in the sense of there were a lot of mouths to feed. There wasn't enough money to go around. And because of that, we lived place to place, moved around a lot, didn't really have strong roots in terms of where we were living, things like that, went through a lot of struggles. And because of that, I was in environments where there were gang members, where there were influences, where there were people who didn't really have goals that they were pursuing. And it was easy to fall in line with them instead of falling in line with the people who were successful. And the reason why is because there weren't that many people that were successful that I had direct access to. And even if I did have direct access to them, I didn't have the mindset to ask them the right questions or to follow them. Because in my community where I grew up and the people I grew up around, you were considered fake, or you were considered not a real man if you followed other people. You know, if you followed them for advice, if you followed them to get a different perspective or insight. You know, everything was about doing it by yourself, doing it and not having any emotions or anything like that. So when I was growing up, I soon realized that if I wanted to make it out of the situation that I saw myself in, that I saw other people in, that I was going to have to do something different. And that means that I was going to have to take this environment and say, I don't care, right? This environment is what it is, but that's not going to stop me. I remember being in class and the teacher would give out an assignment, and all you hear is, come on, we got to do 20 math problems. People smacking their lips. They was twerking with their lips, just upset, right? And not one time did that ever get the assignment changed. Think about that. When I was in school, people complained every single day about homework. Every single day. We got homework again, homework, we got to do it. But not once did that actually change the fact that we had homework. So I sit back and I observe that and I say, that's not working. What you idiots are doing is not working. You're complaining. And if you took that time to actually do the homework or learn how to get better at doing the homework, or learn how to engage with the material so that you're in a better position, so it's not as stressful for you to do the homework, this wouldn't be a problem. So that's what I did. I said, I'm not going to complain. That's not working. They still have to do the same homework the non-complainers do. And the difference is the non-complainers, they're getting to work. Many of the people who didn't complain and didn't sit around and talk all class were able to get some of that homework done, a lot of it, before they even left the class. It's the mindset that you go into stuff with that really determines where you end up in life, right? And so that gets me to where I am in my life now, because that same mentality has always followed me in terms of race and racism. Because when I started having conversations about race and racism, the conversations I would have with other Black people, they were coming from the perspective of racism exists, and because it exists, that means I can't do X, Y, and Z. And I fell for it for a little bit. I worked like I wasn't facing racism, but my mind was telling me all the time, you're never going to be able to do X, Y, and Z. You're not going to be able to own a business because white people are going to stop you. You're never going to be able to go to college and do this and do that because white people are going to stop you. This is what I was being taught. And this is what I actually believed. It didn't stop me from putting the work in, though. That was the difference between me and a lot of other people. I still put the work in as if racism didn't exist. And that's why I have the belief system that I have today, is because I continued to put the work in, even though I believed that racism was holding me back. And then I got to a point to where I looked up and I was more successful than 99% of the people around me that I had grown up with. So that showed me most of the racism that I thought was holding me back never actually held me back. If I would have been spending more time studying and focused on instead of rappers and things like that, if I was focused on learning Einstein's theory of relativity, or learning about gravity, or learning about physics, learning about different things that would have expanded my knowledge and probably got me into a different career, or probably gotten me into a better position in life than I was at, I would have been better off. I gained nothing by sitting around all day and thinking about how racism was holding me back. And it wasn't holding me back. Me thinking that racism was holding me back more than actual racism. Okay, so that's my spiel. That gets me in a nutshell up to what this segment is about, called Racism Isn't Holding You Back. Okay, what is this segment? Racism isn't holding you back. This is a segment where I make the argument that racism is not holding you back. Racism isn't holding you back from getting that job. Racism isn't holding you back from making money. Racism isn't holding you back from anything that you want in life. What's holding you back is a lack of action over a certain amount of time that would have accomplished that goal. That's typically what it comes down to. Individual action. Okay. And so the reason I'm covering what happened on the Breakfast Club, and for those of you who don't know, I would suggest you go watch the video as well. And we're going to dive deeper into that. But the way that relates, what I just said, to what happened on the Breakfast Club is because he said racism is holding us back. Okay. Racism is holding us back. All right. So that sounds like you're talking from the group perspective and not, okay, you followed up with as a community. Racism is holding us back as a community. Okay. As a community, racism is holding you back. All right. Well, then I should see a whole bunch of successful individuals and an unsuccessful community, right? If that's the case. But what I see is this. I see people taking groupthink, and applying it to their individual life. That's an excuse. If you wake up and you look at a statistic, and here's another problem that I have, is most Black people, based on the numbers, not my opinion, most Black people struggle with reading and writing. Okay? Most Black people struggle with reading and writing. Not because we're inferior to other people, not because we're stupid, not because of any of those things. We just haven't chosen to value education as a community. That's community problems. So I get community problems. But what ends up happening is we don't know how to read and comprehend these studies that they do on us. So we'll take something like, oh, well, Black people face racism. 70% of Black people face racism. Or there's this thing that happens as a group to Black people as a group. And we'll try to apply that to our personal lives and use that as a reason for why you didn't get up and go to your minimum wage job at McDonald's so that you can save up money to get you a car so you can go to a better job, or save up money to go to college. That has nothing to do with it. Even if racism is affecting us as a community, what does that have to do with you waking up and giving the best effort you can? Nothing. Nothing at all. It has nothing to do with you waking up and giving the best effort possible. It's an excuse. Okay, it's an excuse. I know it's an excuse because I grew up in a community where other people were not doing as good as me, and I still made it out. If I would have said, oh, Well, they're not doing their homework. 60% of the people in my class ain't doing their homework. What does that have to do with me? I can choose whether I do my homework or not, right? Like, just because a group of people is doing something does not mean you have to be a follower, right? It doesn't mean that. So I reject that racism is holding an individual back. If you want to say racism is holding us back as a community, I would argue, what is your definition of a community? And how are you even engaged in this community? It's like people want to throw the community word out there as if they're part of this greater community. But in reality, right, you're not volunteering in your community. You're not doing anything in your community. You're for you. So I reject that. Okay. I reject that. So moving on to how we get here to the Breakfast Club, right? When I was watching this interview, what stood out to me is, and I want to shout out the Breakfast Club for even having Vivek on, because there are a lot of platforms that will not have a person running as Republican on. They don't want to have conversations. So shout out, respect to them before I get into it, because that still takes a lot of guts in today's environment where you can have a guest on and people will just complain and try to cancel you because you even want to have a conversation with them. So shout out to them. Okay. As I'm watching this interview, what comes to mind is excuses, victim blaming. And I'm going to get into why I say that, right? Because there is a sense of arrogance. I just found your channel. I appreciated your take. I appreciate that, Jerry. More to come. Keep tuning in. We got another comment. Okay. Racism creates systemic barriers for Black people seeking employment by perpetuating biased hiring practices, limiting access to education and professional networks, and enforcing negative stereotypes. Okay. All of that sounds good. All of that sounds like I shouldn't be able to wake up out of my bed and go find a job. That's what that sounds like, right? But that's very general. That's very general. That doesn't mean you as an individual cannot go out and get a job. And what ends up happening with this type of information is that some of it is true, maybe all of it is true, but when you take on the identity of a research project that you haven't even looked at, and now all of a sudden you're saying, well, there's systemic barriers for Black people, so I'm not going to go look for a job. Well, then how are you? That's even more of a reason, right? If there are systemic barriers and there are things that are making something harder for you to do, that's even more of a reason to try harder. Because guess what? You only have one life, whether there's systemic barriers or not. You have one life. And if you didn't give it everything that you have, whether there's systemic barriers or not, you're the one who suffers. Your family's the one who suffers. It doesn't matter how many systemic barriers you talk about. When you're looking your children in their eyes and you can't afford to feed them, they don't want to hear that there's systemic barriers. They don't want to hear that there's system. They don't want to hear you couldn't go get a job, because here's the thing, if they start asking you real questions, okay, there's systemic barriers, daddy, but how many jobs did you apply for today? Okay, so you didn't apply for any jobs today, but you're saying the systemic barriers are holding you back. How does that make, that's the problem with some of this data, okay, is the fact that it exists gives people a reason to say, I'm not going to try it all. And if you would actually try, you would see that the systemic barriers that you think are in place to hold you back many times do not exist in the way that you think. You can go get a job. You can go get an education. You can do anything that you want in this country. You can do it, okay? You can do it. Thank you for exposing those clowns at Breakfast Club. Vivek was too intelligent for that room full of amateurs that vote blue because they support their joke of a show. Teslin is a disgusting witch. Look, I didn't know who she was. All right. I didn't know I was watching the interview And all of a sudden they said Teslin Figueroa or something. I was like, who is this? What happened to Charlemagne? And Envy, look, I watched Dr. Umar Johnson interviews. I watched some of these other interviews. It seems like Envy is just a placeholder when it comes to some of these conversations. And I think, and this is just my perspective, I think he's getting paid on some level to push a certain narrative. That's just my perspective, because he doesn't seem like the one that's really challenging some of these things. He seems like he may get some cliff notes on these issues. He just says stuff. I think Charlemagne does a much better job of pushing people no matter what side of the aisle they're on. I do think he shows a little bit more bias when it comes to people who are Republicans. I think he spouts kind of talking points. I don't think he dives deep into Democrats when they come on. It's more of a buddy-buddy relationship when there's Democrats. He may throw a tough question or two out there, but it's more of a buddy-buddy relationship. And so I noticed that. He said, if there's systemic barriers, why did my parents immigrate from Nigeria in the 70s? See, and this is another thing as well, because I hear this argument of, Black people that are born here, they'll say, well, immigrants have it easier than us because we don't get as much support as they do. Immigrants that come over, they get more support than we do. What are you talking about? What, you were born in the most powerful country in the world. You woke up here. You came out of a vagina in the most powerful country in the world, and you want more support? There are people that die to come here. There are people that die to come here. Imagine there was a Dairy Queen out there, right? We all know what Dairy Queen is. Imagine you worked at a Dairy Queen that people were dying to get into, and you don't see value in being there. That's the crazy part, is many Black people don't see the value of being in the United States, even if you believe it's racist here. Think about that. You can live in a place that you consider racist, and you can't get ahead. And there are people that come from other places and are further than you, and your excuse is, well, they get more support than I do. Let me tell you, you're not even invested in your success enough to know what type of support you need to reach your goals, because 90% of people don't even have written goals. 90% of people don't even have written goals, right? The top 10% of people have written goals. Let's see this. Asian and Indian immigrants tell their kids to hit the books, but the Black community doesn't encourage their children to learn. Listen, this is so true. And I'm going to tell you something, okay? This gets worse, in my opinion, the higher up in income that Black families get. Here's what I mean by this. I know people who came from the hood, made it out the hood, make decent money now. They make a lot of money now. And they're more interested in clout and bigging up themselves than investing in their children's education. They're investing in the shoes. I don't want to say investing. They're spending on the shoes. They're spending on the house. They're spending on the car. But what are they spending on their children's education? Right? You think just because you're sending your kids to school that you're doing a good job of educating them. You're not. You haven't been to any student teacher meetings. You haven't been to anything that shows you care about what they're actually learning. You send them to school and you hope the government does a good job of educating them. But then you turn around on social media and say the government is racist unless they're Democrat. And then you talk about how you don't trust the United States. So let me get this right. You don't trust the United States, but you trust them to educate your children, but you love your children. Make it make sense. That's like me saying, I don't trust this babysitter. I'm going to send them to this babysitter, but I expect good results. It's like, what are you talking about? Okay. It just doesn't make sense. I used to follow Charlemagne. I love his podcast with Andrew Scholes, but he's so blind when it comes to politics. He doesn't see the nuance and vilifies everything on the right. I agree with that. I would agree with that. And here's the difficult part of this whole scenario. When we talk about figures within the Black community, I think we have to understand that close to 90% of Black people vote Democrat. And this is more than just someone changing their political ideology. You are cast out of the Black community if you have a difference of opinion when it comes to that. Look, you could love talking about killing Black people. You could love talking about smoking weed. You could be a female and make videos twerking so little girls think it's okay to twerk. All of that is cool. But do not say you're a Black Republican or a Black conservative. Do not say that you don't think Democrats are the best option politically when it comes to advancing the goals of Black people. Do not say that Black people are accountable for themselves. Yes, racism exists, but it doesn't hold Black people back in the way that many Black people think. You're kicked out the community. All that other stuff is cool. That's what we're about. But when it comes to holding us accountable and picking things that are actually going to progress us, we don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. My dad's first job was at Burger King in Mobile, Alabama. Listen, this is what I hear as well. Many people, their first job, regardless of race, regardless of you had to start at the bottom. But we don't want to start at the bottom. We think we deserve more. We think, oh, I should have just been able to apply at that job that needs 3 years of experience, and they should have given it to me. And if they didn't give it to me, it was because of racism, right? Like, do you meet the qualifications? Do you know, like, it's like sometimes you have to humble yourself and understand that you're not working at Burger King because of racism. You're working at Burger King because you don't have the skill set to work somewhere else. So many people who are actually millionaires now, they started at a job like Burger King. They started at the bottom, but it's the people that have a bigger mindset, a bigger vision of where they want to go that make it out, right? I know somebody, they were working at Burger King when my dad was in high school. They're still working at the same Burger King. I can't make it up. Like Kevin Samuels said, you can't make this stuff up. Said Vivek, knock the brakes off those socialist Dixie. Don't compare elites from other countries to downtrodden because you can reverse it. Okay. I didn't think that's what I was doing. The U.S. values Black people from other countries more than Black people here, simply because many Black people from other countries fall in line, aka assimilate to the dominant culture. Okay. So the U.S. values Black people from other countries more than Black people here. Let's say that that's true. What's stopping you as an individual Black person from waking up every day, working as hard as possible, knowing the skill set you need to achieve to make the income that you want to achieve, and then going out and doing that consistently for the next 10 years? What's stopping you from doing that? Even if the government does value Black people from other countries because they can deport them and because they may assimilate easier, what's stopping you as an individual from doing all the things I just mentioned? Not a damn thing, except you woke up and you looked around and you said, who has it easier than me? And even if they don't have it easier than you, you will make something up. And here's the thing. You'll make everything up in the world about why you're not successful, but you won't make up anything in your mind about how you can be successful, how you could be successful, how you have so much opportunity. Like there's no shortage of opportunity. We are not a monolith. We are not I think it's monolith group. Yeah, I agree. Dude, you're tripping. Every community has this. Stop shitting on us. So what have I said that's talking down on Black people? I've said Black people are capable. We're not victims. We can wake up and put the work in and do it. How is that putting us down? I want to know that. How am I putting Black people down? And here's the thing. When people say every community has this, stop. I didn't say other communities didn't have it. I'm talking to my community. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with me talking to my community? And here's the thing. If let's say every other community does have this, what if I don't want my community to have it? Right? Like, let's be real. If just like your parents say when you're growing up, if everyone else was jumping off a bridge, would you? Like, just because everyone else has this stuff going on doesn't mean I necessarily want my community to have it going on. So your argument about we shouldn't talk about this because every other community has it as well. Okay, well, what if I don't want my community to have it? Plain and simple. Is it shitting on the Black community or accountability? I would say accountability. But unfortunately, holding the Black community accountable often comes off as negative, or you're putting them down. I love the Black community. I spent 7 years of my life going to college, getting a psychology degree, getting a master's degree in sociology, trying to help the Black community, trying to understand the issues, trying to understand how to look at this from a scientific research perspective. And these are the conclusions that I came up to. And as you well know, colleges are dominated by liberals, especially in the psychology and the liberal departments. And many of the issues that I'm talking about, I would have debates in those classrooms with people, and I would raise these issues, and they didn't have the answers either. Said, who? You have such hate. I do not have hate in my heart for Black people. I love Black people. I think Black people are great. I think Black people can achieve whatever they want to achieve. I think some of the greatest achievements in history have been done by Black people. And I have faith that Black people can do and will do better than they are currently doing. I think this is a cultural issue. And yeah, I speak directly to my community. There's not a problem there. I don't see it as a problem with me speaking directly to my community, right? I have children. If I have children and I'm speaking to them, is a good excuse like, well, you shouldn't hold me accountable because other kids are doing it too. I don't give a damn what other kids are doing. I'm talking to my community. So that's irrelevant. Get a life. Vivek sucks. Oh, that's what this is really about. I mean, I appreciate all of the comments from Minnie 1214. He says the whole Black community is not bad. Didn't say they were. That's just you trying to perceive it that way. But okay. The whole Black community is not bad. I don't remember saying that. I don't remember saying the whole Black community is bad. But if you can point that out, please let me know. Pookie and Ray Ray are not all of us. Understood. Obviously, I know that because I'm not Pookie and Ray Ray. I'm Black, if you couldn't see. And accountability is the obligation or willingness to accept responsibility for one's actions. Thank you. Accountability, the obligation, right? I think obligation is the perfect word. You are obligated to be as accountable as possible, because here's the thing. When you're accountable to your actions, it doesn't matter what a government does. It doesn't matter what your parents do. It doesn't matter what your siblings do. It doesn't matter what other people in your community do. You have standards. You have standards. And when you have standards, it's very hard for other people to come in and tear down what you've done. Why? Because when you hold yourself to a certain level or a certain standard of something, you set the rules. You're in control. It doesn't matter what happens in the election. It doesn't matter what happens with Vivek or Trump or Biden or Obama. What matters is you waking up every single day, taking the actions necessary to accomplish the goals that you set for yourself. That's accountability, right? And the more people you have around you that are of high quality, that are holding you accountable, the better. And when I look at the Black community, I don't see a culture of accountability. I don't see a culture of us holding each other accountable when we say we're going to do something and don't. I see a culture of people. Actually, I do see accountability, but I see accountability in the wrong way. I see accountability in a negative way. We're held accountable to living by a set of rules that are street culture, that if you're a snitch, lie in a ditch, you should want to push certain rap music on your children. You should want to listen. Like there's people, there are Black people that have told me they're Blacker than me because they've been to jail and I haven't. Think about that. I've been told by other Black people I talk too white. I'm too educated. Someone told me, I used to live in another state. Someone told me not to move to Texas because I'm whitewashed and the real black people aren't going to accept me. These are just examples, personal experiences that I've been through. Said nobody is putting it on the whole community. He's just speaking of a few instances. Thank you. I'm not putting everything on the black community. He said, mini 12, 14, 1,000 lashes. I'm full of myself. What have I said about me? What have I said about my accomplishments? What have I've just given you personal examples. I'm full of myself. Okay. Well, honestly, I don't really see anything wrong with that if I was, because to a certain, okay, I'm full of, you said, here's the contradiction. You were saying that I was hating on black people. Well, I'm black. If I'm full of myself, then that must mean that I think highly of me being black. So if I think highly of me and I'm black, then that must mean that I don't think black people are all too bad, because I couldn't think highly of myself and also hold the thing that black people are down below people and I'm a hater of black people. So get better arguments. Get better arguments. It's all about me. Oh yeah, it's all about me. Okay, so I'm gonna go on to the next segment and I'm gonna let Minnie keep talking. You lumping us all together. Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm gonna start reviewing this video. I'm gonna play this. All right. Okay, so here's what I have pulled up right here. Okay, so let's go through this. Turn this volume up.
Believing in new false gods instead. That's what's going on in the country. And so I don't know that it's so much a question of fault, but more a question of how do we actually revive our sense of self-confidence and pride.
A question of fault. I can absolutely blame white supremacy. 100.
Really?
Yeah.
See?
Okay. So right here where Charlemagne says that he can absolutely blame white supremacy. And I don't know if you guys could hear that. I'm still working on the audio and things like that, but pretty much they're talking about fault, who's at fault, and Charlemagne was pretty much saying he thinks white supremacy is absolutely the reason. Okay. Let's break that down. White supremacy gets used as this umbrella term whenever not just the black community, but other communities who want to virtue signal or want to gain the black vote or pretend, or maybe they have good intentions, but want to gain access to the black culture. They use white supremacy as this umbrella term of this all-encompassing thing that you really don't know how to address, but is there. So one of the questions that I had when watching this, where he said white supremacy is absolutely at fault, I want to know this, okay? When you wake up in the morning, how is white supremacy stopping you from setting goals? How is white supremacy stopping you from going out and taking action on the thing that you want to accomplish in life? Said, Minnie, I beg you to share facts to back that statement up, that he wasn't practicing. You can play videos about other communities showing them in the spotlight. I don't have to play videos about other communities because I'm talking to my community. Like, why is it that whenever black people try to hold other black people accountable or have a conversation with just black people or about just black people, we have to include everyone else, right? In any other situation, it's cultural appropriation when we include other groups of people. But whenever it comes to accountability, no, we need to talk about other people. We need to talk about other people. I don't understand. How do black people benefit from talking about other people? No, we need to talk about us, right? As an individual, if I want to accomplish my goals, how do I benefit from sitting around talking about other people all day, right? How do I benefit from that? How do I benefit from sitting around and talking about how other people are holding me back all day? I don't. I'm stereotyping us. Okay. Thank you for saying that. I'm stereotyping us, but here's the thing. What I'm saying is backed up by facts. 68% of people in a recent Pew Research study said that racism or discrimination is one of the main things holding black people back. Let me pull that up for you, because maybe you didn't notice that. Maybe you didn't know it. Let me see if I can find this. Let's see. Stereotype. A stereotype is something that is not backed up by fact. So let me go see if I can find this fact for you. Okay, here we go. Here we go. So this is a Pew Research, and I will actually put this in the description for you to see. Here's the link. Okay, I'm stereotyping us, but let's look at this. Let's look at what this says. Okay, so this says right here, at the same time, many Black Americans are concerned about racial discrimination and its impact. Roughly 8 in 10 say they have personally experienced discrimination because of their race, ethnicity. Now, this part right here, most also say discrimination is the main reason many Black people cannot get ahead. The main reason, not the second reason, not the third reason, the main reason. The main reason. 68%, almost 70% of Black people, not me stereotyping, not me making something up, not me pulling it out of my whitewashed ass, okay? 70%, almost 70% of Black people believe that discrimination is the main thing holding them back. Okay. So if is that stereotyping, Minnie? Is that stereotyping? Book smart, but street stupid. I'm not street stupid at all. I've been in plenty of situations in the streets where I could have died, and I'm here. Just because I talk like this doesn't mean I haven't been through anything. I'm very street smart. Probably more street smart than you. Probably more street smart than you. And the people that know where I come from and what I grew up dealing with, they know I'm street smart. I wouldn't actually be here today if I wasn't street smart. I'm very street smart, and I'm educated. I'm not an educated fool. I just know how to read and connect things and synthesize information and comprehend. So yeah, when 70% of my community wake up and they think that that discrimination is the main thing holding them back, that's a problem for me, because I know that the main thing that's holding people back is they don't have goals. They're not consistent enough with what they're trying to do, and they don't have a strong enough why. Those are the main things that hold an individual back from not getting what they want. They're not clear on what they want. They don't have goals, right? And they don't do it long enough to reap the benefits. Like that, it's that. So I have a message to get out to my community that there is a way. You can do it. Okay, you can wake up and accomplish what you want to accomplish. You honestly think 70% of Black people were polled? Here's me being educated again. So it's called a representative sample, right? So you don't need to poll 70% of Black people in order to get that number of what that represents. They poll when you're doing a study, you poll a sample of people that represents the larger sample, and statistically, you can figure that number out by determining what the confidence interval is, by determining what your margin of error is. And by doing that, you can statistically say that 68% of this population believes that. So you don't need to poll 70% of the population. It's a representative sample. And I believe in this sample, they polled around 3,200 people, right? 3,200 people. So here, let's do this. Maybe this will be a teaching lesson, okay? Maybe this will be, let's see if it shows how many people were polled, since it wasn't 70% of the Black population. I believe it was 3,200 when I went through this study and read it. Okay, let's see if we can find where it was. I'll have to post it. Remember reading it was 3,200 and something. It might be at the top. But anyways, all right, yeah. So just so you know, when they're saying, oh, right here, these findings emerge from an extensive Pew Research Center survey of 3,912 Black Americans conducted online October 4th through the 17th, 2021. Right there. Right there. So that's not me making it up. That's the Pew Research Center doing this research. And am I saying that this research is 100% the truth? No, I'm saying this is one data point that you don't have any data to refute. So where is your data? Where is your data? Where is your data, Minnie? Where is your data? You know what I'm talking about. Dude, it's not necessary to look that up. Actually, it is necessary to look that up, Minnie. If you're referencing a research study, you definitely want to know how many participants there were, because that adds to the validity of the margin of error. Okay? So you definitely want to know, if you're looking at a research study, whether there were 2 participants, 3,000, 8,000, you definitely want to know how many people participated in the study. You want to know what their ages were. You want to know certain demographic data points. All of those things matter. All of those things matter. But let's stay focused, okay? Let's get back to this video and let's let Minnie do his typing. Okay, so let's see.
Say more, and then I'll respond to that.
I mean, just look at the history of the country. I guess it's really just that simple for me. The country has never fulfilled its promises of freedom, liberty, and justice for all. It's always been freedom, liberty, and justice for some. Usually that some is white people.
So here's what I would say in response to that. That is obviously true that the nation has fallen short of our promise since our founding.
Mm-hmm.
But walk through some obvious facts about America. We're not founded on an ethnicity or a monarch or a food or even...
So I want to stop right here, and I want to touch on something that was said. He said, Minnie 12, stop being a dim color. I saw this video, he got crushed. Jordan, Minnie does have some points, but seems uneducated. I'm real. Listen, I welcome the pushback. I welcome the pushback. I don't want anyone here to think that I think I'm above them, or that I'm some type of know-it-all. I just present the facts that I know, and the best way I know how to interpret the world. I present my perspective, and I'm open to hearing different perspectives. That's why I have this channel. That's why I've been showing most of the comments. That's why. But I want to touch on something that he said when he said that white people are the ones pretty much that have been included in the dream of freedom, prosperity, all of those things, that it's mainly been white people. Understand this, that when the country was first founded, right, it's true, it was not intended for all of these different groups of people to benefit from it. But what I like is the idea of you have to be accountable to what you said. This is why I think America is a great country when it comes to opportunity, right? You said something in the beginning. You said people were going to live free here. You said that we were entitled to certain rights. And because you said that, you have to be accountable to that. But I find it hypocritical, right? Just being real. I find it hypocritical that as the Black community, as a group, and I'm talking about as a group now, we struggle with holding ourselves accountable, but we want to hold a country accountable. Here's where I think that that's dangerous. Real accountability starts at home. You cannot properly hold someone else accountable if you can't hold yourself accountable, right? We can't hold politicians accountable as a Black community if we don't hold ourselves accountable. Why? Because we end up being disorganized. If you're a disorganized community, then you're not going to be able to hold people accountable because there's going to be too much in-group fighting. So that's why it's important as individuals that we hold ourselves accountable, because then when we get in a group setting, we'll better know how to hold other groups accountable. But we cannot hold the United States accountable, the United States government accountable, until we hold ourselves accountable, because we're not going to know how to hold them accountable. And then you end up in the same situation that we're in now, where you spend decades and decades voting for a party that does nothing for you and even has the balls to tell you you're not Black if you don't vote for them. You're not Black if you don't vote for. That's who we champion. We don't need any politician to speak for us. I agree. We don't need politicians to speak for us. Do you know, in your local neighborhoods, your local areas, you could make more change if you focused on that than if you focused on the presidential election or who's in Congress and all these other things. You can make real change. You can go volunteer your time. You can go volunteer your efforts and make actual change. We need ourselves. We definitely need ourselves. We need to hold ourselves more accountable. You can't hold politicians accountable until you hold yourself accountable. Facts. It's true. It's true. Here's the thing. Try holding somebody more successful than you accountable. See how weird it feels, right? Like somebody that is objectively more successful than you, try holding them accountable. It really doesn't work. So what ends up happening is, as a Black community, we try to hold other groups accountable, but they can see the disorganization. They can see the opportunity. And when they see it, we want to make it seem like we don't know where it came from. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I don't have the time. And Black people still voted for him. But I am not blind to Repubs hate either. Nobody is. I don't think anybody is. I think people just want to put the truth out there. I think people just want to have some balance in the conversation. At least that's what I want. Let's get back to this stream. I had another video. Okay, I'm not going to keep y'all all night, but I just want to touch on these couple points. All right,
it changes your perspectives. I'm very honest about that. Absolutely.
Okay, no problem. So let's go deeper into the self-reflection. So you sat around and sir, I'm being as respectful as I possibly can. Please don't take anything
and you don't even have to be. And you don't even have to be. So take it off and let's go.
So you've been sitting around in the country that my ancestors built for about 20 years. Your parents came over as immigrants, brought you over. You made millions, according to your resume, off of this country. And you have absolutely not been involved in civics. One, not voting. And two, let me just ask, because I know you mentioned earlier, you don't want to sit around at the debate and talk about accomplishments. Let's make the accomplishments pretty simple. In high school, were you ever a class president or take any?
Okay. So right here, okay, I gotta talk about this. I agree with you, Vinny, or Minnie. Vinny. I agree with you, Minnie. Vivek has an agenda. Nothing wrong with that, but I do think it's important that we understand what his agenda is, as we understand what other groups' agendas are, as we create an agenda for ourselves and a group agenda. She came off so aggressive. I agree. And here's what I want to say. She said, my ancestors built this country essentially, and you've benefited from this country. You've benefited from this country. Okay, so let's dive deeper into that. You've benefited from this country, and you sat around and did nothing the last 20 years. Okay, so I don't know how she can make a statement like that and not feel some type of sting that other groups of people can come here and benefit off this country. Why don't you ask him how? That seems like a more interesting question. Hey, how, and by the way, he was actually born in the United States. His parents came over here. But I would want to know how, me personally. Right? If I came across somebody, let's say that he wasn't born in this country and his family still came over here and made it. I would want to know how. Hey, man, how did you do that? You weren't even born here. You weren't even born here and you came over here and did this. I understand he was born here, but what I'm saying is success leaves clues, right? So if you don't understand how somebody did something, maybe it would be a good idea to ask them, hey, how did you come over here? How did your family come over here? You're first generation. How did y'all come over here and now you're a millionaire, right? Maybe that seems like information you would want to take back to your community and help your community. That's something I would want to know. I think it's way more interesting to understand how his parents came over here. He's a first generation and he was able to make millions. That seems way more interesting than wanting to know whether he was involved in civics in his middle school and high school, whether he was on the student council. You know, what that's the weakest argument. Oh, were you on the student council? I mean, I was a hall monitor when I was in elementary school. What does that mean? Because here's the thing. If he would have come out and said, my experience for being the president is I was on my student council in 8th grade, she would have dogged him. She would have been like, that's not real experience. That doesn't matter. So you want me to vote for you because you were on student council? She would have laughed. We have with an R, I'm intelligent enough to know that was supposed to be an E. We have millionaires. I never said we didn't. I never said we didn't have millionaires. I'm saying if I were interviewing a person whose parents came to this country and they were first generation immigrants and they were able to become millionaires, I would want to ask him how he became a millionaire and try to get advice on it. But that's just me personally. Regardless of your race, color, all that stuff, when I meet successful people, I want to ask them questions, right? Because that's where I'm headed. That's where my mindset is at. And if I can learn how to do that, I can teach people I care about how to do that. He said, what millionaires are there? Don't say celebs or athletes. Your premise was because he a millionaire. That was just one of the reasons. That was just one of the reasons what I was talking about. The main point that I was making is that those are the type of questions that I would be interested in. But I'm going to play more of this video. Let's play more of this video.
Leadership role, because your opponent did, Chris Christie, he was the class president. So
Yeah,
have you
yeah,
ever
yeah,
taken
yeah.
any leadership at all on
I have.
anything, or just?
Can I just correct a couple factual things that are kind of important? My parents didn't bring me over to the country. I was born in this country, and I'm proud of that.
No, I know you were born here in Ohio.
Yeah. You mentioned my
I'm
parents
saying your
brought me
parents
over.
were immigrants.
You
My apologies.
That's all right. You said your parents brought you over to this country.
Yeah, my
set that
apologies.
record
I
straight.
mean, they were immigrants, but let's
They
not
were
go down
immigrants.
water.
No, we're not going to water. I was going to correct a couple facts, and then the other thing
You were born here in Ohio.
I was
correct?
born in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's right.
Right. So
Yeah.
you've been here your entire life. So the question
That's
is,
right.
did you take any leadership role in middle school, high school, class president?
I did.
I know you played tennis. What is it?
Okay. Here's where I don't understand this line of questioning. She's asking him, a millionaire, someone who built successful businesses. She's asking him if he's ever had a leadership role in middle school or high school. He's a millionaire. He built businesses. That doesn't take leadership? I think like it's close to 80% of businesses that fail within the first 5 to 10 years, I believe. So he's in the top 20% of people who start a business and succeed, a millionaire, and you're asking him about was he in the student council in middle school and high school, and that's more of a qualification for being a leader than than being a millionaire, than running successful businesses. I didn't understand that, because I think if you're the leader of an organization, that definitely qualifies you to have some type of understanding about human behavior, understanding about how humans work, understanding about what goes, trying to make everybody take it or join the military. Ramaswamy. Listen, okay, and when he didn't, here's another thing, right? People keep saying, well, she made the point of, well, you have this civic engagement thing that you're talking about where you want to raise the voting age to 25 unless you've served in the military or you take this civic test, civic exam that immigrants have to take. Okay. And the argument against that is not that it's a bad idea, but that, well, you didn't vote until 2 years ago and you didn't have to take it, so that's a contradiction. Even if it is a contradiction that he didn't do it, that doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad idea. Just like if your parents, when they were teenagers, did drugs or did something bad, let's say they were drinking and driving, I don't think it's a bad idea that they tell you not to do it, right? Isn't the point of progress that the next generation gets better than the previous generation? Think about this. If we're not able to tell people, younger people that are coming up behind us, a better way to do things, how do you progress? How do you progress? On some level, you have to be a hypocrite in order for progress. You have to be a hypocrite. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, look, I see what happened. I see what happened when we did things this way. I think we should do them this way because those will probably get better results. Am I a hypocrite? Sure. But that doesn't mean it's a bad idea. I mean, just finished watching. As usual, the Swami nailed it. If you are new to this man, I urge you to research him. You'll be very surprised, as I was once. A politician who has common sense. Wrong guy for the job. Okay. So it seems like the real issue is that you shouldn't be able to tell somebody something if you're not doing it yourself. Okay. I don't agree with that argument. I think that that's a ridiculous argument, because you may learn something over your lifetime, and even though you made mistakes in your past, it's still good to pass on information that can be useful, right? When a spaceship or a rocket goes up and it explodes, and let's say there's people in it and they die, you think that they should just build the rocket the same way? Or you think that, oh, well, they're hypocrites because they use the new information to build a new rocket, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. That argument is absolutely ridiculous. Okay. It's just, I don't understand. And I think Trader 1618, I think you're talking about the argument about not being able to correct something just because you didn't do something in the past. I would agree that that's a ridiculous argument, because how do you get better as a parent? How are you able to teach your children something? Just because you made mistakes, now you have to make the same mistakes I made because I don't want to be a hypocrite. I agree, filter. Okay. Okay, cool. All right. And yeah, sometimes I may get off topic a little bit. There's comments and I'm trying to read everyone's comments and answer questions and things like that. She's a desk jockey pretending to be an intellectual heavyweight. Yeah, I mean, I like I said earlier, I didn't know who she was. I'm probably going to go back and do a little bit of research on her to see more of what she has to say, to see if this was in alignment. Maybe this was a bad interview for her. Maybe she came on with the wrong perspective of him or the wrong idea. I don't know. I couldn't say. I just know this specific interview, she lost. She got ate up because she came in with a certain demeanor, right? And I think that this is a thing about human behavior, right? You could have the worst argument in the world, but if there's people watching and you're seen as the asshole, many people will gravitate away from you. She came in with bad energy. Said even Vivek help himself accountable for not voting. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he could have lied. He could have said, oh, no, I voted. She was rude, inaccurate, bad attitude. Minnie about to lose his mind with this one. She came in with that black girl attitude. Listen, okay? This is something that is a problem within our community, right? This, I don't want to say over masculization of black women. And I'm not even saying that she was necessarily being masculine. But what I am saying is that within our community, there is the perception that many black women in particular have an attitude issue. Now, there are probably reasons for that. That's not really the subject of what I'm getting into. However, I don't think that she made herself look good in this interview. I really don't. Tez isn't rich. She even admitted it previously on Instagram. Hey, I mean, even if I'm going based off of what her arguments were, and her arguments seem like she was up all night. Like, okay, let me see. I'm going on and I'm going to be talking to Vivek. How can I get him? She was writing down how she thinks she could get him. And when it started and it wasn't working, she kept digging in and digging in. And I don't think that she expected him to be as calm as he was, right? Just purely from an argument standpoint, I don't think she was expecting him to be as calm as he was. And I think that, you know, like when she says things like, well, you were sitting around for the last 20 years, that's a jab. That's a jab, right? But then when you throw little jabs and then somebody tries to respond to that, it's like, oh, you're going down the water hole. maybe somebody's just trying to set the record straight. She went full getting on him, made him look even better. True, yeah. There's such thing as, making your opponent look better. That's a thing. When you act in such a way that people notice that instead of your argument, which the argument was horrible, by the way, like, well, you were a student council in 8th grade, were you? Weak argument. She came with the goal of not conducting an intellectual, informative interview. She came with clumsy gotcha moments, but she embarrassed herself and the whole platform. True. And maybe they had a conversation with her afterwards. Maybe they were like, hey, what happened? I don't know. I would have wanted to know. Or maybe she thought that she won that. I don't know. They were laughing and things like that. It seemed like they thought they got the better of them. But all the reaction videos, all the comments I see, most of them are like, yo, hey, he got the better of her. She is no reporter. She looked like a fool. Would not let the man answer. Again, full ghetto and look like a fool. She definitely came in with some negative energy. Let me pull this back up. Right here. Teslin asked questions, then proceeded to answer them herself without giving Vivek a chance to answer. She tried to provoke him to say something controversial, but Vivek defeated her by being calm. That's exactly what happened. And it goes back to that saying of, you let somebody speak long enough, you see how much of a fool they are. And she came in full throttle, looking for a gotcha moment, looking for a viral moment, looking for, like she probably had people in her ear, like, hey girl, you gonna get them. Like, this is what you do. What she reminds me of, like the group of friends where there's the dude who's the best fighter in the group. And when they go out, they try to get this dude to fight anybody. Like they think that they're hot stuff because they got this dude that could fight. And they were hyping her up probably like, hey, we know you're going to get him. She said she was doing research, right, on him. She thought she would get him and she didn't, right? She went out with her friends, Charlemagne and Envy, and they were hyping her up like, hey, we need a viral moment. We need you to get Vivek. He's coming on this platform. He's a Republican. We need you to embarrass him in front of the Black community. And she got embarrassed. Right? She got embarrassed without even knowing it. In 5 years than in her 10 years. He was just sitting around though. Right? That's what she said. The last 20 years you've been sitting around. Hey, teach me, Vivek. Teach me how to sit around for 20 years and become a millionaire. I want to know that. Teach me how to sit around and become a millionaire. Gotcha. But her got her on class and content. Yep. DJ Envy with his simp ass tried to allow her to keep pushing her own rhetoric by interrupting Vivek when she literally talked 90% of the time as if she's running for office. Nobody came to see her. That's true. That's true. All right, let me play a little more of this.
Student council, but I think that this is yes, I've held leadership roles over my life, but those don't qualify me to do what I'm doing now.
No, it kind of does.
Okay.
Well, it kind of does. Well, I'm giving the test. I'm the test
Okay,
administrator.
all right, there you go.
So it kind of does, because when you go from saying I want to go to the highest office,
And I'll tell you, I've led companies as well. Is the other leader?
Right,
The main leadership
right,
role I played is, and I want to talk about one early part of your premise that I also want to say, bring it to the country point. The other points, you use the word sitting around. I'm not somebody who's saying I want the next generation, my kids' generation, to have more civic duties when they graduate from high school and college than I did when I did. That being said, I wasn't sitting around. I've developed medicines, 5 of which are FDA-approved products today, 1 of which is a life-saving therapy in kids, 20 of whom die by the age of 3 if they're not treated. 70% of whom now live lives of a normal duration. Another one for prostate cancer. So I don't apologize for making contributions, but
right. Well, I don't want you to filibuster that because
Just
that's
not
not the
sit
question that I asked. And I don't consider, as a veteran, I'm talking about service. I'm not talking about what you
Civic
get for
service,
profit. I'm not talking about what you pay people to do with your
so I'm
company.
not.
Okay. So here, just her attitude, right? Just her whole attitude in asking the question. He said, DJ envy a cancer to the Black community, for real, for real. Minnie sounds just like her, actually. Sad. Listen, okay? What I'll say is, when I'm watching this and she says he was filibustering by responding to something that she said about him, she brought that up. She brought up that he was sitting around. She brought up that his parents brought him to this country when he was actually born here. She brought those things up. And then when he's responding and correcting the fact, she says he's filibustering. It seems like every time he caught her up on something, she wanted to move past that and get back to this weird fantasy of student council when you're in 8th grade qualifying you to be president of the United States. Never mind the fact that you've built businesses, right? And businesses make this country run. Businesses allow people to be employed. Businesses are paying tax money to make sure that the services we have continue. Businesses make the country go around. That's just sitting around. You in middle school, let's take it back to elementary school, the hall monitor. You doing that, that's what matters. That's the stuff that matters. I have observed that many good leaders were at one point good followers. You remain humble, learn using the lathe machine and the milling machine, then you become a foreman of a machine shop. I agree with that. I think in order for you to be a good leader, you have to be a good follower. And this is actually how it works in the business world, right? You get into business, you get you a mentor, somebody who's been in the game a long time, you learn from them. And sometimes you may actually be paying them part of what you earn so that they can take time out of their day to teach you stuff beyond just giving you little nuggets, right? That's how it works when we're talking about apprentices, right? You humble yourself so that you can learn from people. And then when you learn from them, you step up and up and up and up. But there has to be a level of accountability in there. And what I'm seeing when I read a statistic, like I pointed out earlier, that almost 70% of the Black community believe the main reason, not a side note, but the main reason they can't get ahead is because of discrimination. It makes me believe that we can't humble ourselves long enough to get rejected, to get told no, to go through some adversity when it comes to the job marketplace, when it comes to business, when it comes to trying to succeed in things. We can't get told no long enough in order to win. But that's the reality. That's if you really want to achieve something in this life, you have to get told no more than yes. And if you're too insecure and you believe that racism is the reason that you're always getting told no, you'll never make it. You'll never be able to get told no long enough to get told yes one time and have your life change. And this is why I have such a big issue with the way that she's arguing, is because when I hear her arguments, she doesn't want to take accountability for the things that she said. She just wants to move past it. But you said it. You said that man was brought over by his parents. You said that he was sitting around. And then when he tries to correct you, it's like, no. Come on now. Imagine being 40 plus and bragging about some trivial shit you did in the 8th and the 6th grade. She's never done anything noteworthy in her life. Listen, right? Like that was my whole thing, is like, you could have used a better example, okay? Than student council. Because like I said earlier, if he would have come out and said, my qualifications for being president is that I was a student council in 8th grade, she would have been on him about that. So the fact that she brought it up and tried to use it as like qualifications, I didn't understand that. Tesla and Vivek ain't your baby daddy. Y'all getting crazy. Y'all getting crazy. Said, do you think black people have a chance when everywhere they turn, they are told to be against the Republican Party? In home, in the barber chair, church, basketball court, media, radio, Hollywood. So the way that I like to think about this is, in the beginning of the video, I explained my political positions. I explained that I'm an independent. And I also explained, and maybe I didn't explain this, but I'm for black people first, right? That's me. I'm for black people first. Some people may say that in and of itself is racist. I disagree with that. I think there's a difference between thinking you're better than people or your group of people is better than for saying, I'm a part of this group and I want to focus on those issues first before I start branching out. So with that being said, I do think that if we continue down the path of solely voting for Democrats, 90% of us vote for Democrats, then they no longer have to pay attention to what we want. I definitely think that it's a bad thing that we're not voting Republican more, simply for the fact that Democrats know they don't have to do anything for black people. Like you should want to vote Republican simply for the fact to let Democrats know you don't own us. You don't own us, right? Like in life, you want to let people know, like, you still got some power. You may just want to flex and let people know, like, hey, I'm not to be played with. Like, don't think it's sweet over here. Like, don't think you're just going to get my vote and not do anything for me, because I'll go vote for them just to show you don't have the power, just to flex on you and show you, hey, you're going to value my vote. So yes, I do think we still have a chance. I am seeing more people being more public, especially when it comes to the gender ideology, especially when it comes to a lot of the things that they're pushing on children, a lot of the canceling that's going on. People are speaking out, and I think that there's going to be a moment where they're just like, hey, look, we can't rock with you like that no more, Democrats. We can't. We're going to go over here and just see what they give. And I see people all the time say, well, Republicans don't offer black people anything. We don't vote for them. Why would they? That doesn't make logical sense. You have a certain budget. You have a certain amount of money. You're going to go to the people you think are going to vote for you. But if your party is tied to an ideology or a stereotype that you hate black people, that you want black people hanging from trees, that you don't like black people, you want them as slaves again, then nobody is going to really vote. So it makes business sense to not advertise to black people. She keeps scrunching that Squidward nose like he killed her cat. She's a despicable harlot. Look, y'all starting to roast, okay? Some of these jokes funny. Pubs are not going to save us. I don't think they're going to save us. I think the only people that can save us is us. I think what needs to be done for black people needs to be done by black people. I think politics is a piece in the game. I don't think it's the biggest piece. I think personal development is the biggest piece. I think taking accountability is a large piece. I think that you setting clear goals and working on yourself and the people around you and your local community is a larger piece than the Republican saving you. No political party is going to save you. Don't give that power to any political party. Understand the role that a political party has in your community and in your life. Don't give them all that power. Don't sit around a vote to make change. Make change within yourself. Start immediately and get better and better every single day. And you'll see more change doing that than you will ever see going to the ballot box and voting. She is being trashed even on liberal media outlets. If I was Char, I would have ditched her right after the interview, if that's what you want to call it. I'm seeing that as well. Exactly. Any inconvenience we experience as black people is automatically racism. It's such a weak mindset. And inconvenience is the right word. Because listen, if you're actually working towards something that's worth accomplishing, you should want to get told no. Why would you want something that's easy? Why would you want something that anyone else can do? You should want to get told no, because every time you get told no, that's a little bit more data. That's a little bit more information, right? I didn't do everything perfect on this podcast, but I'm here. I don't have $1 million studio. I'm using a webcam and $100 mic that I've had for 3-4 years on a table that, like I'm here doing my best. Is it going to be perfect? No. Is it going to get millions of views? Maybe. I don't know. But I'm consistent enough, and I'm going to keep pushing and pushing, and hopefully something good will happen. But if I sit back and say, oh, well, racism is going to hold me back from having a successful podcast, nobody's going to listen to me. Look, I got locks. I got locks, and they're going to judge me, and my forehead's sweaty. I got a big nose. My goatee is uneven. I could sit around all day and say that stuff and say that that's what held me back. But if I never turn the camera on, if I never get on the mic and say a word, I'm the loser. I'm the loser. Because even if it's true, even if racism is an obstacle, I'm going to go down fighting. I'm going to go down fighting. That's just me. That will remember for the rest of his life for his ideas and accomplishments. Even if he doesn't win, Tez will be forgotten. The concept of affirmative action is strictly looking at people as a group rather than an individual. That type of system never works, right? And here's the thing. And if you watch the full interview, and I'm not going to play too much of it because they can give me a strike, but if you watch the full interview, they get into a conversation about affirmative action, and he makes a good point about many of the Black people who are given positions and getting into college because of affirmative action would have gotten in there without affirmative action. And there's nothing worse than being labeled as somebody who couldn't do something without someone else's help. And here's what kills me, right? People would rather me say this message right here. People would rather me get on the internet and say, hey, look, Black people need to depend on white people, the government, for everything. And we need to sit around and make it seem like we can't achieve anything ourselves. And every election cycle, we need to talk about reparations and how someone can give us something. That's the message that people would rather hear than me saying, hey, look, times are tough. Times can be hard. You're going to go through adversity. You're going to go through struggling. But so what? Get up every single day and try your best. Keep making goals. Keep trying to achieve those goals. And one day you'll wake up and your life will be better than it was. That's my message. It doesn't. I know there's racism. I've dealt with it, but it doesn't hold me back. Why? Because I understand that I'm responsible for my success, regardless. I'm responsible for my success. I'm not giving it to no one else to put on their shoulders. Not a government, not a political party, not anyone. It's my responsibility. My success is my responsibility. Regardless, because at the end of the day, if I sat around and gave a sob story all the time, what is that going to do? It's going to get me in a few doors where people want to hear it. But after a while, they're not going to want to deal with me if I can't do for myself. Your sob story only gets you so far. It does. And at the end of the day, I'm the type of person where if I can control something and I have the power to do something, I'm going to do it until I can't do it anymore. And then and only then will I start to look around and say, this isn't fair. This isn't fair. This isn't fair. But guess what? Even while I'm saying this isn't fair and I'm aware, I'm still pushing forward. I'm not sitting around. Who's going to save me? Who can I blame today? What argument can I make to articulate that other people are the reason why I'm not where No. That's not me. I can be aware of something. I can read books. I can understand statistics about racism, but I can still be working towards something. And that's what I'm going to do to the day I die. That's how I keep my power. Democrats automatically know they got Black vote by default. They don't have to work for it. We hand them our votes on a silver platter. Exactly. They don't have to work for it. And logically, look at your life. If you didn't have to go into work to get your paycheck, would you? I know there's some people like, yeah, I would. If you didn't have, we saw this during the pandemic, people getting paid to stay home. There are many people that were like, I'm not going back to work. They're paying me more to sit home. If you didn't have to go into work to get a paycheck, would you? Probably not. Same logic with the Democrats. If they don't have to do anything, but they get your vote, are they going to do anything for you? No. They're going to go to the LGBT community. They're going to go to the Hispanic community where they're going to have to work for those votes and invest money and give actual policy and make actual changes to get those votes. Why would they do it for us? How can we support you and your channel? So thank you for asking. Okay, you can support my channel by hitting that like button, hitting the comments or sharing, but you can also go and purchase some of my gear. I have it starred up here, right there. You can purchase some gear. There's some hoodies, shirts. That's just one way that you can do that. It should be pinned. And I also have a Cash App, Peace and Love 93. That, you know, if you want to throw me a Cash App or something, that will help. Let's get back to these comments, okay? Because it's getting good. I like this. All right, so where are we at? We're attacking the interviewer for not interviewing many. We're attacking the interviewer for not interviewing many. Minnie deserves to be attacked. It doesn't matter. She's not running. She had a condescending, or not Minnie. Okay, she deserves to be attacked. It doesn't matter. She's not running. She had a condescending attitude. She did have a condescending attitude, and attitude is everything. Okay, so affirmative action is literally artificial progress. There's nothing organic or honest or genuine about it. Listen, everyone, I think, understands that fundamentally, right? Me personally, if I've worked my ass off to get somewhere, I want the credit. I'm selfish. I want the credit. I don't want it to be because of affirmative action. That takes away from my honor. I work too hard. Don't give me this because you feel bad for me. No, I'll go in any room and I'll compete if I have to compete to get what I want. I don't want to win the race just because you handed me the trophy. I want to win the race because I won. Right? I don't want no participation trophy. I don't want someone to do something for me because they feel bad. I don't want someone to give me a leg up because they thought I couldn't do it myself. No, I want you to put me through the same criteria that you put them into. And I'm the type of person where if you put me through the same criteria and I did better than they did, I'm still going to find a way to get what I want, right? Real life story. I was working at an insurance agency, right? I was working at an insurance agency when I got out of college. And I had gotten licensed to sell life insurance, health insurance, home insurance, car insurance. And one day I get called into the office. It's me. I'm working for a white man, by the way. And my coworkers are all white, right? I live in a city. There's not a lot of black people. I get called into the office, and it wasn't a call in like you're fired. It was like a strategic meeting of you need to start doing this, this, and this. So the guy I work for, he tells me, hey, you need to start researching companies before you call them. I respectfully let him know, okay, I wasn't doing that because you told us not to in the past. You said that was a waste of time to just cold call them. He gets upset, right? But before he gets upset, the white person next to me, my coworker, says, yeah, you did say that. So he gets upset and he says, okay. And then he says, stay in here. The meeting ends. He tells me to stay in there. So I stay in there. He starts yelling at me. He starts saying, I don't like when people bring up things I said in the past. I ask him, are you upset that I brought it up? Or am I lying? He said, no, you're not lying. I just don't like when people bring up stuff I said in the past. Okay. So then I say, well, if it's true, it's true. I don't care what you like. I got a big mouth. I stand up for myself. Anyways, he says, well, I think it's time we part ways then. I said, do you want me to leave at the end of the day or right now? He says, right now. I say, okay. So I leave, I go. After work, right? After my coworker gets off, he invites me over to his house to chill because he's new. I was training him and he sees how good I am at my job and he's confused. He wants to know what happened. So I go over to his house. I'm chilling with him and his girl and we're talking. And somehow we get on pay, right? He's trying to figure out the game. Hey, how much commission do you make off of this? You know, what's the pay structure like after a certain amount of time? So I'm telling him, blah, blah, blah. Here's how much I'm getting paid. Mind you, at this time, I have my bachelor's degree in psychology. I just graduated. He has no degree, and he's not even licensed to sell insurance at this point. He's still in training. And we're talking about pay, and I'm telling him how much I get paid, and he says, well, no, that can't be right because I get more money than that. He's paying me more than that, right? So he's telling me, hey, I get paid more than you and you have a degree and you have more experience because he got hired after me and I'm not even licensed to sell insurance. He's paying me more than you. That's what he's telling me, right? So at this point, I can sit back and I can say, well, see, white people are evil and I'm never going to go try to get another job again. Or, see, I shouldn't even try anymore because blah, blah, blah. And he's getting paid and I knew it. I knew I was never going to be able to get ahead. I could have taken that mentality and that mindset. But guess what I did with that? I said, that's interesting. You know what? It's my fault for putting my financial success in someone else's hands. I'm going to be a business owner. And that way, when I make money or however much money I make, it's on me, right? I'm in control. So that situation made me take more accountability for my life because I said, you know what? I'm glad that happened because I should have never put my financial success in another person's hands. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the 9-to-5 job. But what I'm saying, I'm just pointing out an example of there was racism at play. He was getting paid more than me, even though he had less experience, wasn't licensed, didn't have a degree. I could have taken that and internalized it and never been the same. And I wasn't the same because that made me realize I don't want to work at a job, period, for the rest of my life because I'm never going to have the type of control of my life that I want to be. And that's what really sprung me into being an entrepreneur. So I look at that situation as a blessing, right? But it's how you view it. It's how you view it. I took accountability for my financial success because I understood that the next job I get, this may happen. And the next job and the next job. And then I'll be 50 years old talking about I never made the money I wanted to make because of white people. No, it's my responsibility to make the type of money I want to make. Many career politicians fought for victims. It is good when there are victims. When no victim is left, they often resort to creating victims. They better spend time to build factories and create jobs. Look, I agree with that. Like, there are many career politicians where all they've ever done is be a politician. They haven't really worked in the real world. They don't know what it's really like out here for people. And so they get caught up in trying to keep that position of power. And as long as there's victims, as long as there's somebody out there saying, I need you to solve my problem, they're going to have votes. And unfortunately, with the Black community, we put a great deal of responsibility on the Democrat Party to solve our problems. And they're not gonna. They can't. It's even if they wanted to, they couldn't. She did an excellent job of attacking, not interviewing. Right. I agree with that. So I'm going to finish up these comments and then wrap up. I'm more afraid of my own race killing me than a damn white person giving me a dirty look at Walmart. Look, I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm not going to disagree with that because it's usually only been other Black people that have threatened me or that have really put me in any danger. That's not me stereotyping. That's me sharing my personal experiences. I've never been in a situation where there's been a group of white people and I've feared for my life. Maybe when I was younger, but that was based off of people telling me, if you walk by a group of white people, they're going to hang you from a tree, little kids talking crap, things like that. But there's never been a situation where, I've gotten into it with a group of white people like that. There was, actually, I take that back. It was a weird situation. It wasn't a group of white people. I had moved to a new city where there weren't that many Black people. And my first day of high school at this school, I was walking by in the parking lot, and there was this black dude, and he was on the basketball team, real tall, and he was in a group of white people, and he called me the N-word. Just I was walking by, he called me the N-word with the hard ER. Called me the N-word and started laughing with all the white people, right? That was pretty much like, I took that as they talked him into doing it. They wanted to see what type of reaction. But, you know, little things like that, but nothing that's actually ever held me back or made me fear white people. And then, you know, I'll say the cops. I don't look at the cops as a race of people. I look at the cops as an organization doing the bidding of the state. There is fear, but if I'm being honest, that fear is mainly from what I see in the media and what I hear from other people. I've never really been treated disrespectfully by the cops. Yes, they may have questioned me. Yes, they may have been out of pocket sometimes where it's like, I think so, but I've never been roughed up or anything like that to the point to where I can say for sure it was racism. You know, that's not me saying it doesn't happen. That's not me making excuses for cops or for white people or anything like that. That's just me giving my personal account of what I've been through. Stop trolling. Christian. Vivek is third place right now, which is crazy considering, but he will go anywhere to get his message out. And I think that's what more people want. Like, we don't care, you know, necessarily, like, we care what your politics are, but we just want to hear different ideas. We're tired of being, you know, coddled. We're tired of people sitting around making it seem like we can't hear the truth. We just want to hear different ideas so that we can make a decision. We're tired of social media companies telling us that you only can listen to one idea, and that if there's a different perspective, we're going to block it so you don't hear it. We're tired of that. He talks with Democrats the same as Republican outlets. No platform is too small. He can and will speak anywhere, anytime. It's groundwork, right? And I'm not even saying that I'm going to vote for him or that I support him. I have to do my research. This was my introduction to him on this interview. But what I will say is that, you know, when you're willing to go and sit with people who you know are going to talk down to you, who you know are going to ask you tough questions, I think that goes a lot further than playing it safe and only having conversations that are safe, only having conversations with people that agree with you. She didn't know that an immigrant can't be president. Your parents brought you here. How could he run for president, Teslin? That's true. You know, if you weren't born here, you can't be president. So I don't know where she was coming with that. My cousin just finished her second master's and was offered a job making $180K per year. Now, how did she do this? Hard work. She had a plan and stuck with it. You need a plan and confidence. Absolutely. And congratulations to your cousin. You know, I've only done one master's degree, and it was hard work, and I completed it. I wanted to go for my PhD, but I changed courses because I got more into entrepreneurship. I still want to get a PhD before my life ends. That's one of my goals, is to get a PhD, because I am an intellectual person and I like the challenge. But my finances were more important to me at the moment. But I am going to get, you know what, I'm going to say, I'm going to get a PhD, not an honorary, but I'm going to get a PhD before my life is over. But congratulations to your cousin. It does take hard work. It does take a plan. It does take confidence. It does take you waking up and knowing what you want. It does take, because I don't know about your cousin, but when I was going for my master's degree, I was poor. I was living, I was struggling. I was struggling to pay bills, but at the end of the tunnel, I saw that goal, and that's what kept me going. Exactly. She didn't know basic politics. It was so embarrassing right then and there. I was mentally pulled out of her ridiculous questioning. Minnie, you're a professional victim. I'm convinced just a crawl in a hole. Just crawl in a hole. You don't seem like you want to amount to anything. If an Indian American couple adopted a black child, 90% guaranteed he would be successful. Look at the CEOs of tech companies, Google, Microsoft, Adobe, their kids are in STEM or law. This is an interesting point, right? This is an interesting point because I have this conversation sometimes with people, and I talk about how it comes down to culture, right? When you put a child through a culture, there are certain outcomes at the end of that experience, at the end of that socialization. So if we think of culture as a program, right? What is the quality of the Black culture, and what are the benefits that someone would get out of it by getting put through it, right? What does the Black culture teach us about finances? What does the Black culture teach us as Black people about education, about honor, about respect, about valuing other Black people's lives? What, like, I can go on and on. What does it teach us? It doesn't teach us those things. But this is the reason why other people can get ahead, is because they have a culture that they can put their children through that yields a certain result. So I've had this conversation with plenty of my friends and said, hey, look, this is no joke. I want my children to have more friends who are Indian, more friends who are Chinese, more friends who come from a cult, even Hispanic. And I'm not saying don't have Black friends. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that I know that they're going to pick up on their culture, right? I want, when I send my children to hang out with their friends, I want my children to be in an environment where those parents are saying, hey, you need to learn math. They're getting on my children. You don't know algebra yet. You don't know this. You don't know that. They're exposing them to things that they're not getting from my culture, because unfortunately, my culture isn't teaching those things. I hate to say it. I wish we were, but we're not. And so I see nothing wrong with putting your children around different cultures so that they can pick up on some of those things, right? Their kids are in STEM and law because they're intentional. There's a culture of them listening to their parents, and then their parents saying, hey, look, you're going into this field. We'll demonize it. We'll say, oh, you should be able to pick whatever field you want. It's your life, blah, blah, blah. But in their culture, they respect their parents enough to say, hey, look, I may not want to go into law. I may not want to go into STEM, but our culture says this is what I need to do, so I'm going to do that. So I'm not mad at it. Victim mentality is holding Black people back. I hate to say it, but I agree. Not racism, right? And here's the thing. When in the future, I'm going to have more segments where people can actually come up, and I have a segment that is going to be called, and this is the kind of the first episode of that segment, called Racism Isn't Holding You Back, right? And I want to hear from people who really believe that racism is holding you back, because I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to ask you a line of questions, and we're going to get to the bottom of how exactly racism is holding you back. Not how it's holding Black people back, not how it's held your grandma back, not your uncle, not this, not that, how exactly it's holding you back from accomplishing your goals. I want to hear, and I want to challenge you. And the good thing is that if I challenge you and it turns out that racism isn't holding you back, well, guess what? You got a new purpose, baby. You got a new reason to live. You got something to look forward to. So I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited about that. It is true across the world. Yep. When will they do affirmative action in basketball, football? Must be racism that Indian Americans are not in professional leagues. Hey, they understand that when it comes to certain things, it's a good political talking point, I believe. Okay, let me see. I'm going to find some. Thank you for this chat. You speak at a good pace and are articulate. Keep at it. I wish you and your channel success. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it. I didn't know what to expect when I started this channel, but the support has been great. I appreciate everyone that's on here and just giving feedback. It definitely makes the conversation more lively and more willing for me to have that conversation later. Like, this makes me want to get on next week and have a conversation again. So thank you everyone that's spending this Friday, this time out of your day to watch this and even support me. Appreciate it. Finally, it is culture and not race. It's definitely culture. And I would suggest anyone who hasn't read Thomas Sowell's book, I think it's called Culture and Race. Thomas Sowell. Go read that book because he dives into. I haven't finished it yet, but he brings up a lot of interesting points about culture and race, and I don't think people understand how important culture actually is. How, like, culture can take nobodies and turn them into somebodies. Culture is just a way of doing something that yields a certain result. Like, that's culture. And so if you have a culture where people are constantly looking to other people to blame, how is that going to compete with the culture where people are saying, hey, look, yeah, this sucks. This is hard work. They don't like us, but we're still going to wake up every single day and go after it and go after it and go after it and go after it. Who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is going to win a race where they only have one leg? The person with two legs at the starting line that never starts the race, or the person that has one leg and hops the whole way around on that one leg? Who do you think is going to win? The person that actually put the work in, the person that stood at the starting line talking about why they won't win the race and how everything's up against them. Look, I'll take my chances on the one leg dude. Our culture is ass. Our modern culture is music and media. This is the hard topic that liberals don't touch. Degeneracy is what we validate. Look, so culture keeps bringing up. If you guys want me to do a live next week on culture, put culture in the chat. Type culture. If you want me to do a live video on culture next week and us have a deeper discussion on culture, type culture in the chat. And I'll do that. I'll put that together. But I need to know that it's a conversation that people want to have. So if you want to have a conversation next week about culture, put it in the chat and I'll make it happen. We've destroyed the Breakfast Club. Culture. Okay. I'll do it. Culture. While I have you guys here, what are some topics you think would be interesting to talk about when it comes to culture? I'm thinking about comparing different cultures and comparing the outcomes that different cultures get. That's what comes to mind with me. But if you're still on here and you're one of the people that want me to talk about culture, what would you specifically like to discuss about culture so that we can have a deeper understanding? We can talk about what is culture, what is the meaning of culture, what is the responsibility of a culture, what is the purpose of a culture. Oh, y'all got me hyped. Because I this is what I studied. So I could talk all day on culture. I'm just writing some notes down. Okay. So I'll wrap it up here soon. If you have not hit that like button, make sure you hit that like button. Just show support for the channel. Also, I have gear that you can purchase if you want to show support, Cash App. But as I end this conversation, I want to end on a positive note. I love Black people. I love helping the Black community. I believe in accountability, and I believe that you can do whatever you set your mind to. I think that that there are things that we can do as individuals to help other people around us. I don't want to be any other race. I love being Black. If I could be reborn again, I would be born as Black. My thing is what gets results. Complaining about your situation does not get results. Talking down on other people does not get results. Being accountable gets results. Having goals gets results. Understanding where you're at and what you need to do gets results. Many, again, saying that I'm trashing us for the entertainment of others. I wouldn't consider what I do trashing us. What I would consider me doing is sharing my experience of what I've experienced of being Black, and also trying to hold us accountable. I think it's best in life to hold the people you love the most as accountable as you can. The more accountable you hold people, the better results they tend to get. It's usually the people that are not held accountable to a certain standard where they're not getting good results. And so I'll leave with this. If you want something in life, you can have it. Find a way to hold yourself as accountable as possible. When you think it's racism, maybe it is. But at the end of the day, okay, if it is, how does that help you move forward and achieve your goal? You have to be focused on that goal. If it's racism, it's racism. All right. But now what are you going to do? Now what? You still have a goal. You're still hungry. You still need to feed your family. You still need to be successful. You still need to contribute to the people you love. So whether it's racism or not, whether there's an asteroid hurling towards the earth, whether it's COVID, whether it's something else that you can put it on, okay, now it's time to get to work. Now it's time to actually do what's necessary to win. I'm a winner, and I've always had a winner's mindset. And because I have a winner's mindset, I do everything in my power possible to put it on me. I want it all on my shoulders. I want it all on my shoulders. On culture, you should bring statistics on which departments students from Africa go to and which departments African American students go to. So, stats on university programs by race. American, Africans. Okay, I can do that. I wrote that here. So that'd be an interesting topic, because ultimately, if you go to and I can admit this, okay? I'm humble enough to admit this, despite what many thinks. I'm humble enough to admit this. I went and got a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in sociology. Now, those aren't the best money makers, right? But I wasn't focused on money when I started getting those degrees. When I decided that I wanted more financial stability in my life, I made a change and became an entrepreneur and really honed in on what it is I wanted to do. So what I will say is your college degree absolutely matters in terms of what program you go into. Was I smart enough to go into engineering? Absolutely. Was I smart enough to go into a math or a tech field? Absolutely. My mind wasn't there yet because I didn't have the information. I didn't take accountability for my future and go do the work I needed to do to understand that there are different fields that pay different amounts, and that if I want to get paid a certain amount, I need to go into a certain field. Nobody pushed me to that. Okay, I'm here now. I'm not complaining about my life, but if I'm talking to people in the future, maybe don't go get a sociology degree. That's what I'm going to say. You should tell us which grants and such are available. Grants have nothing to do with the culture. Stop trolling. Okay. Yeah, we can get into grants or we can get into culture. We'll talk about culture. We'll give a deep dive. But I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. Hopefully we can have more podcasts like this. I really thought that this was a valuable episode. If you want to support the channel, look at my description and go get some gear. You can also Cash App, like, comment, share, all that great stuff. More content to come. I'm also doing funny skits. I'm also doing commentary or reaction videos on a smaller scale, not live videos. So make sure you check out those. And more content for you guys, more ways to be valuable. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video.